Alright, I got the same shirt on because I'm reacting to this right after the last Squid Game I just saw. No, I saw like the beginning. So I saw a clip, or no, a picture. It was on either Twitter or Instagram, and it said, "What if the main guy? I don't know why. I don't know any of their names." But it said, what if the main guy would have chose the red card? Would he have been like the people that was just shooting people? Because in the beginning he did choose the blue one, but obviously as a watcher of as a watcher, you're not paying attention to that. You just think like, oh, he probably just, it doesn't matter what card. But I mean, the card might have been green though. I'm colorblind because the people were green, like their outfits are green, and I didn't know that until my sister said it because I thought they were blue too. So just know, yes, I'm colorblind pretty bad. Like it's bad. But either way, y'all know which card I'm talking about. As long as I know the red one, it's the red one. Like I think if he would have chose the red one, I wonder if he would have been a guard or not. But I feel like no, because I don't think the people in the red were in debt though. Cause that was the whole point in the people that were in the greens because they were all in debt. So I don't think so. And I saw that was the title, the thumbnail of this. So I'm guessing that's what they're gonna say. But if you think about it, the people in the green were only people who were in debt. So I don't think the card actually would have mattered. Actually, to now that I think about it,
Welcome to the Heavy Spoilers
it
Show.
wouldn't make
I'm your host
sense.
Paul, and this is me before watching Squid Game. This is me after, and that's because the series is filled with lots of over-the-top deaths, challenges, and a major twist ending that has a lot going on with it. Because of the major reveals, there's several fan theories floating around about the show, including how Gi-Hun almost became a god, his relationship with Ilnam, the VIPs, and a lot more. Throughout this video, we're going to be breaking down the best of them, but I'm putting a red light on right now if you don't want any spoilers.
I don't get
If
it.
you enjoy the video,
Were the
please hit the thumbs up
VIPs the
button.
people who've
Also,
already
make sure you subscribe
won,
for breakdowns like this each and every
or
week. With
no?
that out of the way,
I
that's what we're doing
I didn't
this,
get who the
but let's get into
VIPs
our
were,
Squid Game theories.
or were they just the friends that had
In this
money?
series, we learn a lot about the setup of the Squid Game, including the guards and also those in control. Though the security that works in the compound seems like they're all part of the vast organization too, it could be that they were selected much in the same way that all of the players were. In episode 1, we come across a mysterious character played by Gong-Yoo who offers Gi-Hun two choices. He can either pick a blue card or a red card, and Gi-Hun goes with the latter, which could end up cementing which type of player that he is in the game. Lucy.what1 on TikTok came up with a theory the other day that had Gi-Hun chosen the red card, that he could have ended up becoming a god instead of the player that he was. If we're going deeper into this, then it's definitely a possibility, and the gods themselves seem just as trapped as the players are. They sleep in cells, are killed for even revealing their faces, and though they seem like they're in control, we can see from the way that they're treated that they actually have very little power. They also have very little knowledge of what's actually going on, and don't know who each other are. Everyone is kept in the dark so that they can leave the facility.
Whatever it is, Square has the most power.
Therefore, it seems that this might be a one-time thing for them, just like.
And then it's triangle, and then it's circle.
They're also given numbers, and this is definitely an interesting theory. The more we learn about the game, the more it seems like the gods are almost just as powerless as the players, hinting towards this perhaps being the case. Now, in our last video, we talked about all the clues and hints that Ilnam was actually the one in control of the game. This included things like the files starting at 2 instead of 1, him instructing the frontman to end the riots, and also the marbles area being modelled on his childhood home. The marbles one was where he faked his own death, and this enabled him to leave the game before the numbers were whittled down even further. Though it seemed like the perfect plan, it may have been a last minute one, and it could be that he was actually never supposed to play it in the first place. Now, shoutouts Fahim Zaman, who on our last video theorized that Ilnam didn't actually want to be picked for this, but Gi-Hun showed him some compassion, and this is why he let him win and proceed to the next round. If we look at the day before, Ilnam was incredibly ill, or at least he said he was. Throughout the games, he was pretty much seen as just a liability, and as the lead up to the marbles involved partnering up with people, it could be that he actually intended to come across so bad that no one would ever choose him. However, Gi-Hun did, and instead 2-on-2 was the one that was left behind. Now, I've been thinking about this since Fahim wrote it, and I think that the competition from this point onwards could have gone one of two ways. The first is that Ilnam knew that not being picked in this meant he'd get a free pass to the next round. Because of this, he could purposely pretend to be ill in the hopes that no one would choose him, and he'd sail right through it. He doesn't make any effort to even try and get a partner, and it's clear that he just wanted to sit at the back and keep a low profile. The second option is that he could have used this opportunity to fake his own death. When 212 is left behind at the beginning of the game, the show leads us to believe that she's going to be killed because she's the odd one out. However, she is saved, but I do think it's possible that had
She was so
Gilman been left
crazy,
behind at
bro.
this point, he could have
She
used
was
it to
so
make his
crazy.
exit. The glass hopping game is super unpredictable because not only do you have to make sure that no one gets last place before you do, but you also have to hope that no one ends up pushing you through one like what we see. The gods at this point were under a strict policy to kill every player that attacked another one, but they seem to completely waive it at this point because it's all part of the game. Now it could also be that Ilnam was no longer playing, and therefore they didn't need to have it in place for his safety, but either way, this is one of the most dangerous games to be a part of. Anyway, the relationship between Gi-Hun and Ilnam is sort of a weird one. Though it seems like the Squid Game is some Willy Wonka-esque way to choose someone to take his fortune, there may be other layers to it, and it
Willy
is possible
what?
that Ilnam is actually Gi-Hun's father. Now the first hint towards this is pretty surface level, but nevertheless it's something that we need to talk about. Both Ilnam
Bro, I was thinking this the whole time that he was his dad. I mean, not the whole time, but when it came to like certain parts, and especially the marble part. But the only thing is, we never got any information on Gi-Hun, I think I was saying him. We never got any information like, oh, if he never had his dad, or he had his dad but then he left, or like we never got no information on that. So that's why I was like, okay, maybe he's not. But like he kept talking about his childhood, and I don't know, he just kept talking about so much stuff with him as a dad and stuff he would do with his kids or some mess like that. And I was like, is he his dad? Because they keep partnering up and stuff like that. So that's what I was wondering.
are the first and last players of the game, and therefore their numbers have been clearly put in place to highlight to us that they are opposites. This can be applied to a number of things, including Gi-Hun being a poor player, whilst Ilnam is the overseer of the entire operation. Now this doesn't really bring anything to confirm that they are related, but the numbers are purposely picked to show us that there is something tying the two together. Episode 3 gives us the first real big clue, as in that we find that Gi-Hun is lactose intolerant. He can't have the regular milk that the gods hand out, and therefore he requests chocolate instead. Ilnam overhears this and says to him that he must have been beaten by his dad when he was younger because he used to do the same to his son. On a second viewing of the season, this line stands out a lot, and there's another one when the pair play marbles. The whole area is purposely meant to resemble a Korean neighborhood, and though many of you pointed out on my last video that this doesn't really mean anything, comments by the characters definitely hold some significance. Now not only does Ilnam find an area that looks exactly like his home, but Gi-Hun also says that the alley next to it is similar to where he grew up. It is possible that the
Yeah, Gi-Hun said something too, but I just can't remember what he said. But yeah,
whilst Ilnam was off playing Battle Royale. If that's indeed the case, then the entire games could have been set up to test whether his son is worthy to take over the mantle or not. The ending of the series has him inheriting Ilnam's money and joining him beside his deathbed. Though it seems like the game dies with him, we learn in the final few scenes that it's actually still going, and Gi-Hun ends up abandoning his trip to LA to stop things from moving forward. But what if he doesn't, and instead he eventually ends up taking over everything? After all, Gi-Hun is now extremely rich, and he may end up facing the boredom that Ilnam and the other VIPs do. We also see the idea of abandoning a child reflected in his stance at the end of the season. Gi-Hun was supposed to be traveling to LA to meet his daughter, but he's left her to get involved with the games instead. This could be the writers subtly hinting to us that something similar happened to Ilnam. Perhaps he too was supposed to go and get his child, but instead he took a different path and ended up abandoning him in order to set up the games, which would be reflected by...
but see, we just didn't get no information on who Gi-Hun's dad is, though.
Isn't so much a theory as it's a comment on us as an audience and how we are very similar to the VIPs. On our last video, Oval1TY left a comment discussing how they operate, and in many ways we are very much the same as them. In the season they arrive, lounge around as an audience, and watch the players die for their own entertainment. Though we're meant to look down on them and see them as evil, this is also something that we are doing too. As much as the show was a shock to the system, we very much enjoyed it just as much as they do, and similar to them, we're anonymous to each other.
I'm not gonna say I enjoyed it as much as they did, though. Like that might be, you might be going too far. Like word to like you might be like they were happy. I wasn't happy these people were dying. Like they're like, oh, what's the next game? Like I wasn't like that. Like I was. The show was nice and it kept you suspenseful and in it, but they
Very much the
intentions was to love this.
homes, seeing the games play out before our very eyes. Now, the final theory centers around the front man, who we learn is controlling the game whilst Ilnam plays it. We know very little about the character beyond the fact that he's Hwang Jun-ho's brother and that he disappeared in 2015. Episode 5 ends with Hwang Jun-ho coming across a filing system that contains all of the player profiles. In these, he finds his brother, and therefore we can guess that he too was part of the process. Because he's still alive, he likely won it, and it is possible that he ended up becoming an overseer in the system, much like our theory for Gi-Hun's future. Now, why I brought this up is because it clearly shows that there is precedent for winning players to end up taking part in an authority role, and therefore it could be easy for Gi-Hun to follow in his footsteps. I think it would be even wilder if it actually turned out that Gi-Hun, Hwang Jun-ho, and the frontman were all in some way related to Ilnam, and that they'd been put through their paces by their father to see if they were
That would be crazy.
That would just be crazy for me. And also, quick correction on the last video, yeah? Just a quick one. Now, I did mention that the wall markings were actually showing the players what games they'd be playing in advance. And no, I said the triangle was the Last Supper. It's actually the Marbles game. Shoutouts to everyone who pointed that out on the last video. I love you. And yes, I would have failed the Squid Game because of that terrible mistake. Anyway, there's a lot to think about. And what I love about Squid Game is that there's so many different things you can pull from it. Make sure you drop your best theories in the comment section below, and we might end up talking about them in an upcoming video on the series. I still want to do a season 2 video, but I'm just...
Alright, so that's the end of this one too. I hope y'all enjoyed this one too, but I'm obviously I was hearing that they're gonna make another season, which is obvious because he's gonna go back and, as he said, might become like a higher up of them and keep it going, or he gonna try to end it. Now in my opinion, I feel like he gonna try to end it just because of the type of person he is, but you never know. But either way, I hope y'all enjoyed that, and then until next time, peace.